Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn, and on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business and share them with us so that we can all learn together. As always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way that established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, endless social media posting, or any of this old, ineffective traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. To find out more, send me a direct message on LinkedIn to have a chat. The link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, our special guest is Dan Barkhuff. He's the owner of Civly, where he provides AI research and political modeling. So, Dan, thanks so much for being on the show today. And I want to start off with asking you a question that I always love to start with, which is this. If you were somehow able to go back in time to when you
Sure.
started your very first business, but knowing what you know now, what would you do differently in the first 12 months?
So Jason, first of all, thanks for having me on the pod. Delighted to be here. Civly is a young company, so we have just cracked about 12 months, which I should say in the AI space is it makes us one of a mature company, because the tech moves that fast these days. Things that I would do differently. I mean, in that 12 months, I feel like we've made so many of the classic mistakes that people make when they start a company. I mean, originally we had a partner who was problematic, that we had to buy out. We had difficulty getting initial investment. Our original product that we designed was not a very good market fit and nobody wanted to buy it. And almost right away, we had to pivot to an entirely new product. So we've made a litany of the mistakes that you hear about commonly when folks start a business.
Yeah, definitely. And so what has changed to be able to help get from where you are to running, profitable business and what you're doing?
Sure. So our big insight, so we're a political company, and by that sense, we sell technology to people engaged in politics. That's the core of our business. So originally, what we wanted to do was to use AI for some of the redundant, very simple, rote things that political campaigns, political organizations have to do, and currently and have done for years with human beings. The thing that we started with is what we'd call political compliance. Compliance in politics in the States, and I'd imagine the UK has similar laws, although money I don't think is as quite as prevalent in the UK system as it is in the States. But in the States, the FEC, the Federal Election Commission, has a number of requirements. You know, if somebody makes a donation, you have to report that donation. It has to be public. If you're running a PAC, which is a political action committee, same thing. If people donate to you, it's a public donation. So the basics of political compliance are that you have to publicly show who is spending money to support you. And currently campaigns will spend, a couple $1,000s a month, typically to like a law firm that they handle to essentially take their receipts from donations and submit it to the federal government. It's completely replaceable by AI. There's no reason you need to pay a law firm $3,000 a month to click send on your CSV for the FEC. So we built an AI tool for that, and nobody wanted to buy it. And so our initial pivot was analyzing why nobody wanted to buy a compliance tool that worked and what did they want to buy. And the first thing that we found that they wanted to buy was research. So research in politics is, the term is oppo research or opposition research. And then there's self research. So if you, Jason Osborne, wanted to run for the Senate in Texas, one of your big expenses initially would be probably somewhere between $50 and $100,000 on a research book on yourself, right? To go back through time and find your political vulnerabilities. Maybe you posted something crazy on Twitter 10 years ago, or you've got a series of bankruptcies or lawsuits or whatever. Or if you're an elected official, maybe you voted for something that you thought was a good idea at the time, but it's now turned out to be unpopular, right? You also spend money on finding those things on your opponent, right? So you want to be able to say to your opponent, why did you, take money from tobacco companies? Why did you vote this way on the Iraq war? Why did you want to be able to say those things, and you want to be able to say them factually and then message off of them. So campaigns budget for research. And what we found was that you could automate almost all of this research. These are all open source things that exist on the internet. They're databases. There are companies that have sort of done this, and they essentially try to turn what is publicly available into books. And so a campaign would get a 100-page book on every bad vote that Jason Osborn has taken and every sort of thing that he's done that is, problematic in a political campaign. We can scrape the internet, and instead of hiring 10, 15 people to go back through everything that you've done, and it takes 6 weeks and it costs $100,000. We're doing it in 48 hours, and we're doing it at a tenth of the cost, right? So that's the core of our business right now.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. And what's the key ways that you are getting that out in front of people, marketing that? Like, what have you learned now that you know that the market wants that? How are you actually positioning yourself in the market right now with that?
Sure. So politics in America is essentially a cartel system. There are some firms that are bipartisan. They will work for a Republican candidate, they will work for a Democratic candidate. Most firms choose one side or the other. So, we're a Republican firm, we only work with, Republican candidates, or we're a Democratic firm, we only work with Democratic candidates and Democratic causes, right? And so that's the first thing that you should know about a political company. The second thing is getting out in front of people. What we've found is our problem, and this I would imagine your listeners might find some insight in, is we have a new technology that does an old problem better. All right. And so every time I'm pitching someone, it feels to me so similar to my own conversations back in the day when we were switching from CD players to, iPods and streaming, right? And the arguments you hear people make against using our AI tech, which is better, quicker, cheaper, are the same arguments people made about CD players. That, well, I already can hear all the music that I want on my CD player. Why would I spend money on this new thing when I've got a way that works? And so, in order to kind of break through that resistance, that very natural resistance of, hey, I've got something that works. Why would I, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? What we need to do is we need to find, one of our investors said, one of the best things you can do is find people who want to be heroes and make them heroes. And what he meant by that was you need to find champions. You need to find people at a company, in a political party, in a state party, in a campaign, who say, I want to do something special for this campaign. I want to find a better way to build a mousetrap, and they're willing to take a risk. The other interesting thing that I've noticed is a lot of the interest in our company, there's sort of a bimodal distribution. And what I mean by that is the young people who are sort of AI natives, they get it, right? The 25-year-old campaign worker who just got a master's degree in political science and is now on their first campaign, they're like, oh, AI, let's use it. Similarly, folks who are near the end of their career, you'd be surprised. A lot of them really are open minded about this new tech. And they're like, hey, this is great. I've been doing this for 30 years. This is going to be so much better. The people we have the toughest time convincing to take a shot on new tech are kind of those people in the middle. And so those mid career people who have been doing it long enough to be set in their ways, but are not so comfortable that they are not worried about trying something new and failing. So trying to, we've both approached it sort of from a top down approach where we're hitting up people in we're a Democrat aligned firm. So, people in Democratic politics who have been doing it for 40 years, former governors, folks who've run political firms for decades and are very successful. And also a bottom up approach where we're targeting, folks who are on their first campaign, candidates who are running for a down ballot race. So they're running for, the school board in their local city. They're not running for the US Senate, but someday they might. And so we're trying to come at it from top down and bottom up. And that's sort of the approach that we've taken.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. Really, really interesting. And I love the flexibility in which you've had to have as well on approaching the issue and not being so um, emotionally tied to the first product, which I think is a lot of people struggle with. Is like, hey, I built this thing, I put all this money into it. We have to make it work, and then it's just this, they're following a product that nobody wants and they're trying to force it where you're like, well, they don't want it, let's just pivot. And I think that is such an incredible mindset to have that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, and so, to be flexible like that, that has been, and it wasn't just that. There have been other sort of, the Y Combinator school of launch early, launch often, right? We've done that a couple times, and for new products, and there was one product that we wanted to put out. We love it. It's called Command Center. It tracks candidates across the entire, you can track an issue, you can track a candidate, you can track a state and automatically upload. I mean, not upload, there's no uploading, but you're automatically tracking tweets of politicians and directly putting out communications, political communications. And I was like, this is going to take over the market. And again, nobody wanted to buy it. And it's like, well, how long do you stick with something? There's a line there where you don't want to just quit because the first guy said no. But at the same time, if 100 people say no, you're probably not doing it right. And so you need to be able, you need to have the flexibility and really the humility to say, look, I thought this was a great idea, but it wasn't. Or maybe it is, but the market doesn't want it right now. So having that ability to not throw good money after bad and cut your losses when you need to has been critical in our journey as a company.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that. You said, they may not need it now. And I think that's the important thing is maybe down the road, things will shift in demand and they may want it, or your understanding in the marketplace will also change 5 years from now, a year from now. And you're like, oh, I just need to position it this way. I didn't even think or know to position it that way at the time. And I think that flexibility and the humility, as you said, I think is so important. So, but what's over the next, say, 2 to 3 years? Of the business. What are your goals? What would you like to achieve with the business?
That's a great question. So another thing about politics, right, aside from the cartels, is it's actually quite cyclical. So in the states, as you know, our elections are scheduled. So essentially, there are some off-year elections. There are some states, Virginia, that have elections during odd numbered years, but most elections in the states are either 2 or 4 year increments, right? And so that means that the business cycle, if you're a political firm, is a little different. It has a great deal of churn. So, our next elections are in November. We will lose clients when those elections are over because some of our clients are people running for office and they're either going to win or they're going to lose and the campaign is done, right? So political campaigns are continuous startups and they're always starting over. And, we've got
Mhm.
435 House seats. It's a new startup every 2 years, right? And so we are actively looking, and we've had some success applying what we've done with politics to, non-political verticals. So in some ways, politics is the easiest industry to be involved in because politicians are public figures and they want to be in the public eye. But really, what we have is an incredibly cheap and incredibly effective way to essentially research anyone or anything. So we've had some interest from everything from high net worth individuals who want to make sure that they want to do their due diligence on an organization they might want to add membership to. But there are implications in things like in the legal field, jury selection. If you really wanted to know how someone's going to vote in a trial during the voir dire process, and you, Jason Osborn, 6 years ago, liked a post about capital punishment on Facebook, that's going to tell me more than the 5 minutes of me asking you questions in the courtroom, right? Uh, Sports is a big one. So, a lot of effort and energy, both at the college level in the US and at the professional level, goes into identifying athletic talent. But not as much effort goes into figuring out if that athletic talent is a good investment, right? And so the two might be the same thing. They might not. So you might have someone who's a great athlete who's never going to play because they're kind of a jerk off the court or off the field. And colleges in America today are paying their student athletes, and so they're making real $1 million investments in some of these people. Same thing with professional sports that draft players, and the big one in the States is baseball. Baseball, unlike basketball, the NBA, for example, they've got more draft rounds, more draft picks. Many of their draft picks are from Latin America, other countries where they don't have as much information. And many Major League Baseball teams have actually been burned by drafting someone who then turned out to be unable to play for off the field reasons, right? So there's a whole bunch of kind of that due diligence that we can help with way cheaper, way faster. And I mean, my favorite one is even something as simple as internet dating, right? If you really want to know what this guy who you swiped right on, right, like what he's like, we can we can help. So there's a ton of implications for AI in researching people, and our company motto is shining a light on character, and that applies in multiple fields, not just politics.
Yeah, that's so fascinating, man. I could talk to you about this for a long time. Well, for people that are looking to learn more about what you do and maybe how you can help them in loads of different aspects that you've just mentioned, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Sure, absolutely. Through our website. So it's civly.ai. Very easy. It's civly.ai is our website. And you can send us an email. We do have a little bit of a presence in the UK. Our first international client has been the Labour Party, and we're excited to work with some of those folks. If any of your listeners are over in the UK. And yeah, it's thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And thanks for that, Dan. I definitely recommend everyone that you feel this sort of service that Dan is providing would be helpful for you in any way. Please do reach out to him. But yes, Dan, same likewise. Appreciate you taking out the time and being on the show today. And as a reminder to everyone listening, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way that established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects that doesn't rely on any of the old, ineffective traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborne. The link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.